Good afternoon and welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. We start the show off today in the Sunshine State of Florida, where several minutes ago, President Trump wrapped up touring a new immigration detention center within the Florida Everglades. It's dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. That facility will be able to house some 50,000 detainees. Let's go ahead and take a listen in to what the president has to say.
Educated scholarships. They want their citizens that are living here in the United States illegally to come home and to be a part of their economy and help their countries grow. So this is a win-win for everyone, and I just want to end, Mr. President, by thanking our law enforcement officers, by thanking our ICE officers and our Border Patrol officers for what they do every day. They are out on the streets, and violence against them has increased over 500% since Trump has gone back into the White House, because he's upholding the law and because a bunch of liberals, socialists, and Marxists are out there lying about what President Trump is doing. President Trump is upholding freedom by what he is doing. The freedom to live safely in this country and to do things legally and to have justice. And because those liberals, and I'm calling out you, CNN, I'm calling you out because you lie every single day about what these operations are. We are going after murderers and rapists and traffickers and drug dealers and getting them off the streets and getting them out of this country because Joe Biden let the worst of the worst come in here. The other day I was talking to some marshals that have been partnering with ICE. They said that they had detained a cannibal and put him on a plane to take him home, and while they had him in his seat, he started to eat himself, and they had to get him off and get him medical attention. These are the kind of deranged individuals that are on our streets in America that we're trying to target and get out of our country because they are so deranged they don't belong here. And they shouldn't be walking the streets with our children. And they shouldn't be living in the communities with our families who just want to grow up, go to job, raise their children to grow up and get a job and to live the American dream. So thank you to all of our law enforcement officers, those in our military that have been helping, our National Guard. Thank you to Governor DeSantis for stepping up and being an example to other governors. I hope my phone rings off the hook from governors calling and saying, how can we do what Florida just did? How can we do exactly what they did? Because we need this big, beautiful bill. We absolutely have to have this big, beautiful bill that has the funding so that we can continue this operation and we can get those bad criminals off of our streets and have the officers to do it so that when they go out on an operation, somebody's got their back. Somebody's got their back, they can do it safely, and they can go home to their families at night too. So this bill needs to pass through Congress so we have the resources at the Department of Homeland Security to make sure that our homeland truly is secure. And Mr. President, thank you for Stephen Miller. I just want to thank you for him. This guy calls me night and day and tells me all of his wise advice and wisdom, but he's a rock star because he loves this country and he's passionate about making sure that nobody is prioritized over an American citizen. We love everybody. We do. We love everybody.
Not everybody.
But, well,
a lot of people.
But we shouldn't be putting people illegally above citizens. We should be making sure that we do things right, and that's what America has always stood for, and we're an example to the rest of the world because we do it right. So, Mr. President, you surround yourself with great people, and I think that's because everybody wants to work for the greatest president that the United States has ever had, and that's President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very
sir.
much, Chrissy.
Thank you for your...
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I have to say that, you know, when Christie's name was put before me, by Tom Homan, by the way, because I wanted him for the border, and somehow I thought that was going to be good in that sort, but he didn't want the upper job, and I said, who do you recommend? Christie Noem. I said, oh, are you kidding? She's great, but she's such a fine, elegant person. He said, sir, she's tough as hell. I said, are you sure? You are tough as hell, I tell you, and you do it in a very nice way, but you are, if you ever saw her ride a horse, she rides a horse like she should be in the rodeo. She's like an unbelievable horse person, and you've done a fantastic job, and Steve Miller would even agree to that. And he likes nobody, by the way. I don't think he likes anybody. And another one we like is Ron. And Ron, would you say a few words, please?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Welcome back to Florida, and I think this is the first time you've been back since the events of a couple weeks. So just let me say, as somebody that was serving on active duty in Iraq back in the day, we witnessed the number of our troops that were killed or wounded by the Iranians. We know that they're a militant Islamic regime that was hell-bent on getting nuclear weapons, and under Joe Biden, they were about to get nuclear weapons. And because of your strong actions, those dreams and those ambitions have been reduced to rubble. And I thank you. I know a lot of veterans thank you, and people in Florida really thank you for stepping up and really making a strong, tough, but strong decision. I think we're much safer as a result of that. Now, on the immigration, I think President Trump's election represented the chance for us to finally solve this illegal immigration and border problem once and for all. I knew he was going to do the border, although he did it very quickly and very thoroughly. I think that no one can say that that's been anything but a spectacular success. But then we have the issue of Biden let in how many millions of people? And you had millions that had been in over decades previous to that. You can't have a country if you don't have respect for the rule of law. You can't have a country if foreigners get to decide who comes in. No, we, the American people, make that decision, who's allowed or not allowed to come into our country. We've seen Europe be overrun by open borders, so we're not gonna let that happen here. So when President got elected, I knew that the states had an important role to play in facilitating this really, really historic mission. We're the only state in America, Florida, that requires full cooperation with ICE from all state and local law enforcement entities. And what is the net result of that? We have these agreements for these 287G task force with sheriff's departments, police departments, state agencies, and it's really instrumental in rounding up a lot of really bad people who shouldn't be here. If you look at the number of those full-blown 287G agreements that have been executed around the country, the state of Florida accounts for 60% of those. If you look at the number of immigration arrests of illegal aliens on any given day, the arrests happening in Florida constitute between 15 and 20%. Nationwide. So we're all in on this because we understand how important it is to our citizens. It crowds schools, it crowds medical, it crowds housing. Yes, you have illegal alien crime as well, and people want the problem solved. And the only way we're going to solve it is if states like Florida step up and help the president, help Secretary Noem get the job done. Now, this facility here was really in response to us working with DHS and ICE from the time the president got sworn in. And the number one thing they kept coming back to was, you know, Biden decimated the agency. I mean, let's just be clear. You could have illegals in Florida. Biden would just release them. Even when they had notices or they had orders to be removed, Biden wouldn't send them back. So their interior enforcement collapsed under Biden. So they're building it back up. But they're like, we need detention space in order to be able to bring about more deportations. And so what we have here can hold 3,000 now. We have 2,000 facility up at Camp Blanding that we're going to be open, which is our National Guard site. But think about what you have here. They come here, say they already or been ordered to be deported. You drive them 2,000 feet to the runway, and then they're gone. It's a one-stop shop. And this airport that's been here for a long time is the perfectly secure location. It's going to make a big difference. And let me just thank everyone who was involved. We got the call from DHS a little bit more than a week ago, and here we are 8 days later with this facility open, and as soon as Air Force One departs, it'll be swept, and it'll be open for business to be able to do. But our goal here is to process them and be able to effectuate their return to their home country. This is the opposite of what they were doing in New York by just putting them up in a hotel and then just letting them stay there indefinitely. No, we want to be able to send back. And when you walk into the processing, the president and I, Secretary Noem, Kevin Guthrie, walk through that initial intake, the first thing you see is information on how to go home on your own. Why would you want to come through Alligator Alcatraz if you can just go home on your own? I think a lot of people are going to make that decision. So you're going to have a lot of deportations that are going to be done by the administration, but I think you're going to have a lot of voluntary as well. So this is a force multiplier for the president's efforts. I would just say and echo what Secretary Noem says. There is no reason why other states can't be doing it. And I know Louisiana, Texas, a couple of them, but we've got if only the red states did this, they would be able to expand their capacity by tens of thousands, maybe 50, 100,000 on a given day. That's how you really start to make a difference. And so we're proud to be able to partner with the Trump administration on that. Mr. President, thanks for coming down. I think you highlighting this is going to move the needle in a big way throughout the country, and I think it's going to help all of us achieve the really big results that I think our voters want to see.
Thank you, Ron. Great job. Thank you. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity. My name is Kevin Guthrie. I'm the Executive Director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. And I'd also like to thank President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Noam for joining us here today and for their continued support. I want to thank first by thanking the man to my right, and that's Governor Ron DeSantis, whose bold leadership and swift action made this project possible. With make no mistake, this facility would not be standing here without the President, the Secretary, and the Governor's vision and determination to uphold the rule of law. Florida is and will always be a law and order state. Even before the President took office, the Governor made it clear that illegal immigration would not be tolerated in the state of Florida. When the President and the Secretary asked Florida to help, the Governor empowered our state and private partners to work collaboratively and deliver real results on a rapid timeline. The Florida Division of Emergency Management is best known for leading the nation in hurricane response and other natural disasters. We understand how to act fast without bureaucracy in the face of any emergency. Our teams built roads in 8 hours, bridges in 3 days, base camps in 72 hours, and full causeways in 2 weeks. Getting things done quickly, efficiently, and correctly is at the core of our mission. We simply just want to be the best at what we do in the nation. When the Governor called me, and we answered, and we were proud to bring our logistical expertise to the table. We know how to set up base camps for guardsmen, first responders, linemen, volunteers, and other aid sources, and distribute that in a matter of days before a storm. We're able to translate this knowledge to what we did here at Alligator Alcatraz. Florida has put the best teams together who check their individual logos and egos at the door to get this done. Not just for you, Governor, but Mr. President, for you as well. There are over 13 different vendors that came together to get this solved in 8 days. Truly a whole of private sector partnership to get that done. Behind you on these boards, in only 8 days, we have built a fully compliant detention facility with a detainee capacity of up to 3,000 people, with room for additional capacity if you asked us to do so. The detention facility includes over 158,000 square feet of housing and is a fully aluminum frame structure rated for winds of 110 miles an hour or a high-end Category 2 for those people that don't think that we're taking that into consideration. This is Florida, by the way. Power supply is fully redundant with backup generators in place. We've put a staff village here on site with a capacity of 1,000. Our services are hot meal 3 times a day, 24/7 medical facility, pharmacy, air conditioning, access to indoor and outdoor rec yards, legal and clergy support services, laundry. Our security element is over 200 security cameras throughout the facility, more than 28,000 feet of barbed wire, 400 plus security personnel to include 200 men and women, soldiers and airmen underneath Major General John Haas's command as the Adjutant General of Florida. And it's all surrounded, as you pointed out, Mr. President, by 10 miles of beautiful Florida Everglades. Contingencies, as with all state correctional facilities, we have a hurricane plan. We will not wait for a Cat 2. We will follow our normal evacuation procedures as we do for any other facility statewide in our great state of Florida. We have on-site fire and EMS resources so that we do not we don't burden the locals with any type of response. All in all, sir, this has been a perfect state logistics exercise for this hurricane season. Everything we did here in the last 8 days, God forbid, if we have a hurricane, we're going to do it again. This was a dress rehearsal for us, and we are ready, willing, and able to support you, sir, the governor, secretary, and everything that you need us to do. Just a week ago, it was a taxiway and a runway, and now is a fully functioning facility. We are happy to support you, Mr. President, Governor, Secretary.
Fantastic job. Thank you. Byron, please.
There we go. First of all, Mr. President, we all have to thank you for your leadership and for the mandate that the American people gave you to finally secure our borders and to deport criminal illegal aliens and longstanding illegal aliens out of the United States. That is a mandate given to you by the American people. I know Secretary Noem, Stephen Miller, Governor DeSantis, myself, on behalf of the other members of Congress in the Senate, and of course here in Florida, we are behind you 100% in that mission. To the governor, I really appreciate you and commend you for your leadership on this, taking swift, decisive action to building this facility. One of the things that has occurred because of the work you did earlier this year with the legislature is that our sheriffs are out there every single day. They are arresting these criminal aliens in our streets, and they're seeing some backlog in their jails. So this facility primarily goes to address some of that backlog and then to help us fulfill the mission that the president has led us to. So Governor, thank you for your leadership and thank you for your decisive action on this. It really does mean a lot to all the people of Florida, of course the people of the 19th Congressional District. Secretary Noem, I mean, what can I say? The president's right, you're double tough. So we appreciate all your leadership. You and Tom Homan have been doing a great job. And I'm actually going back to DC after this because we have to vote on one big, beautiful bill in the House. We have to get that to the president's desk so we can get you the resources that you need to fulfill the mission that the American people have asked us to do. I totally agree with what Mr. Guthrie has said. This is a logistical marvel when something like this occurs. We've seen Florida Department of Emergency Management answer the bell time and time again. The governor has said we need to accomplish this, and DEM gets that job done. And we had a side conversation about, I know there were some concerns. People were like, well, what happens if a hurricane comes? What happens if this happens? And I looked at Kevin Guthrie and I said, you already have a plan, don't you? And he goes, of course we have a plan. You know that we do. This is what Florida does, Mr. President, and so I want to commend you for your leadership and your vision on this. Governor, thank you for all that you've done with your vision and determination. Secretary Noem, we're going to get the bill done so you get the resources you need. See you, sir.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Wow. Thank you. You know, I'm waiting, listening to these wonderful words, and they are music to my ears, but I was also wondering how we're doing, because I know this is prime time. It shows that I care about you, because I'm here, and I probably should be there, but we do care. Thank you very much. James, please. We're all happy now, James.
Yeah. Well, I can speak on behalf of all of our sheriffs, state law enforcement, our police chiefs. We are going to continue to make arrests, our pedals to the metal, as many as we can. We want to fill this place up. The governor and Kevin have shown they can build bridges in 3 days, so why not some detention facilities? Hopefully there's more to come. And you really kind of were the inspiration for this. We like the idea of reopening the original Alcatraz. I don't know if that can happen or not, but we thought, hey, we've got our own natural Alcatraz in the middle of the Everglades. Great runway, great perimeter, so let's make it happen. In Florida, we walk the walk, and we will deliver for all of you. Thank you.
Well, I heard you were responsible for the locational pick, and you cannot have picked a better location. I said, whoever the hell made this choice, I know you take it a little heat from some environmental groups, but I take it all the time, and that's an honor. But I heard you were very responsible for that choice, and that was a big choice. Thank you very much. Great job, James. Thank you. Do you want to finish over here, and then we'll go over here, and we'll go back and celebrate the big, beautiful bill that you just got passed. You sure that's right, Brian? Yeah, all right. Wow, good. He's doing a good job.
Right.
Wow.
Mr. President, first of all, I just want to say how grateful we are that you're back here in your home state of Florida. You've been doing an amazing job, not only at our border, but around the world, keeping this country safe and Americans. We are grateful for your leadership. God had a plan for us, and it was Donald Trump. So thank you for that. As a member of the Immigration Board and as the Commissioner of Agriculture of this state, I've been happy to help lead with the governor and the rest of the cabinet on this issue. We're very proud, Secretary Noem's here today and others, to represent not only the United States in our efforts to make this commitment to keep our citizens safe, but we're going to continue in Florida to remove the barriers to have your vision come true of a safe United States. We're going to get these illegals, the illegal criminals out of this state, and we really appreciate you and your leadership in this effort. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe Gruters, State Senator. I'm a member of your Homeland Security Advisory Council, your Vice Chairman. Thank you for that appointment. And thank you for coming back to Florida and everything that you do. Every single day you are delivering on the promises that you promised to us at all of the events you've done throughout the years, but specifically this last campaign. You deserve all the credit for everything, and you are surrounding yourself with incredible people like Secretary Noem, Stephen Miller, and just like your big, beautiful bill here in Florida, there was a lot of commotion about our immigration bill. And we had 3 Bs in that: beds, badges, and bad guys. And this goes right along with our beds and the resources. And I give the governor, Ron DeSantis, a lot of credit for stepping up and making sure that we all work together, because at the end of the day, even if sometimes there are skirmishes, as a result of the back and forth, we ended up with a better bill, and we all win. And what we're doing here in Florida hopefully will happen all across the country. You've done, your leadership is amazing. Keep up the great work, and just know that Florida loves President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it for a long time. Appreciate it. By the way, Okeechobee is something that we did together also, and that was a lot of money spent. I hope it was well spent. I know we did a Rolls-Royce job, but it's a lot of money that we spent out there together. And how is it going?
You can delegate that to us, because we move faster than the Army Corps.
Good.
So we will finish that reservoir.
Good.
If you delegate it to us, I'll get it done and much quicker.
Oh, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, let me ask myself permission. Permission granted. Go ahead, get the thing, get it complete. You want to do that?
All right, we're gonna go talk to the
ahead,
Army
do it.
Corps then after this.
Good. You can move faster, actually. Please.
Sir, just first on behalf of the men and women of ICE, we just want to thank you for allowing us to do our job again. You know, your vision and under Secretary Noem's leadership, this is what the American people want. And I hope that you see great results of what we're doing out there every day, getting the worst of the worst out of our communities. Because of you and Secretary Noem, I have the privilege to lead one of the most premier and the finest law enforcement agencies that we do have in the United States. And the men and women of HSI and ERO Miami do incredible work like you highlighted. And with the governor in the state of Florida, the partnership in Florida has been amazing. The 287G program is only going to help us to identify all those known gotaways and get the worst of the worst out of the neighborhoods. And through our Homeland Security Task Force, we are going to make America safe again. So thank you very much to both you and the Secretary.
Thank you, Todd. Great job. Really great job you're doing. Thank you. Please.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming. Again, as Garrett Ripp, I'm the Field Office Director for ICERO here for the Miami Field Office. Incredible collaborative work we've been doing together, working with the state, working with our local partners. And again, just the 287G is going to open up that aperture and allow us to get those bad hombres off the street and get them into this facility. And we're looking forward to it. And again, just appreciate all your support.
Thank you. Always thank you. You've always been so great. Thank you very much. Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. On behalf of Air Marine Operations, my name is Andres Blanco. I'm the Executive Director for Southeast Region. AMO continues to execute and support your executive orders. Air Marine Operations brings a unique capability both in the air and the maritime domains. And in partnership with our Border Patrol, OFO officers, and ERO, we continue to conduct effective operations both interior, along the border, and along the maritime approaches.
Thank you very much. Good job.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Jose Figueroa. I am the Acting Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations here in South Florida, and our office covers from Key West to Fort Pierce.
All right, yet again, President Trump flanked by a number of top officials right here in the U.S. He is in Florida, just outside of Miami, at Alligator Alcatraz, a detention center for immigrants that will be able to hold up to 50,000 once it is complete within the next several days. We're going to switch from there and take you back to the nation's capital, Capitol Hill, where the Senate has just passed Trump's tax spending bill after more than 24 hours of negotiations. The vote was 50-50, and Vice President J.D. Vance was in the chamber to cast the tie-breaking vote. I should make mention, 3 Republicans voted no, all Democrats voted no. Among them, this gentleman right here, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Let's take a listen in.
New York has hundreds of thousands of people on SNAP. They're going to get hurt. New York has tens of thousands of clean energy jobs. Many of them will be gone. They're going to get hurt. So this bill is very bad for New York and very bad for America. It's bad for every state. Ask Tom Tillis. Yes.
That's my question. Is Tom Tillis, was he helpful for you in the 2026 midterms, given his floor speech and all the statements that he's made about this bill?
Well, Tillis spoke truth to power. Unfortunately, not any other Republicans had the courage to do that. But obviously, what Tillis said is true. And it's not just him who said it, it's lots of people who said it. But of course, what Tom Tillis said will reverberate around America, and we're going to make sure of that. Yes?
Schumer, you mentioned taking this to voters. Do you believe that this bill, if it becomes law, will help your party flip the majority? And can I also get your reaction to Colin Allred running in Texas?
Okay. On the first one, look, we didn't do this for electoral purposes. We did this because we passionately believe how bad this is. That's motivated us. And again, as you saw on the floor, all during the debate, we were on our front foot. We were filled with enthusiasm. The Republicans weren't. They were defensive throughout the debate. And as I said, even when the bill passed, there was a little bit of somberness there because they know how bad it is. But will it affect the elections? Well, that's what America's all about. When something as big and ugly and betraying as this passes, of course it'll be an issue in the election. I'm not going to comment on the Texas race. Yep.
You talked a lot about the precedents that Leader Thune and Republican leadership broke in this process, especially with current policy baseline. Can you talk a little bit about your willingness to use that going forward when you win?
Look, what they did, as I said, eroded the Senate in a dramatic way. And they should be ashamed of themselves. Yes?
Back to Senator Tillis. Do Senate Democrats see him as a potential ally? Are you going to try to work with him more in the future?
Look, the man was a truth speaker, and I respect that. And I'm not going to talk about using him or anything else. He spoke the truth, and America's hearing it. Last one.
House Democrats have far fewer options than Senate Democrats do when it comes to stalling legislation. What are you advising House Democrats to do this week?
I'm urging every House Democrat to vote no, and I'm urging Republican House members. We have 6 in New York. This bill clobbers New York. They should, if they vote for it, they're betraying New York. Thank you, everybody.
You have it yet again. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer speaking on the big, beautiful bill and actually passing in the Senate. It was a close call, guys, 50-50 both ways. Vice President J.D. Vance was in the chamber to cast a tie-breaking vote. Obviously, Senate Minority Leader Schumer is outraged with regard to this bill passing. If you're wondering, it now goes back to the House, where likely, yet again, it will face some strong opposition. President Trump back in Florida at Alligator Alcatraz. Let's listen in to see if the president has anything to say with regard to the passage of the bill.
So I think it could last as long as they want to have it. I mean, you may morph this into, your prison system, frankly, which I know you always need, unfortunately. I'd like to say, a little controversial, but I couldn't care less. We have a lot of bad criminals that came into this country, and they came in stupidly. It was an unforced error. It was an incompetent president that allowed it to happen. It was an auto pen maybe that allowed it to happen, and it did happen. But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time, people that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them, people that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York, and they're not accidents. They were done very much on purpose. People being pushed into a subway just before it arrives, going 40 miles an hour, and they're 10 feet away from where the thing is, to get pushed right into the face of the subway train, get whacked and killed. And these are sick people. I'd like to get them out of here, too. Yeah, please, go ahead. White shirt, glasses.
Julio Rosas, Blaze Media, sir. A couple months ago, I ran into former DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and I asked him a couple questions about his disastrous handling of the border. He didn't like my questions. But the number one question that I heard from people in responding to my video was, why hasn't he been arrested yet? Obviously, you guys are cleaning up the mess that was made deliberately for the past 4 years, and so people want accountability. It's great to see that the border is secured, and it's great to see the state level cooperation. But I guess I would ask you, why hasn't he been held accountable, or anybody really?
Well, you know, pardons were given out by to many people, and they shouldn't have been given out. Like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs was given a pardon because they destroyed all of the information from 2 years of hearings, and they should be arrested, but they were given pardons. Was he given a pardon, Mayorkas? Was he not?
I don't believe so.
Well,
sir.
I'd take a look at that one, because what he did is, it's beyond incompetence. Something had to be done. Now, with that being said, he took orders from other people, and he was really doing the orders, and you could say he was very loyal to them, because it must have been very hard for him to stand up and sit up and, you know, talk about what he allowed to happen to this country and be serious about it. So he was given orders. If he wasn't given a pardon, I could see looking at that. In fact, why don't you take a look at it, Kristen? He was impeached, but yeah, it was just a fake impeachment. It was a fake impeachment. Why don't you take a look at it? I think he was so bad. They were all so bad. Look, it was the worst president in the history of our country. We've had some bad ones, but he was the worst president. But somebody told Mayorkas to do that, and he followed orders, but that doesn't necessarily hold him harmless. So take a look at it. It's a very good question, actually. Thank you. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Mr. President, you and the Secretary have both said that many people have self-deported since you came back into office. Yeah. How many is many, and has the rate gone up? How do you see the tempo of that moving forward going on?
We have had several 100,000, but also we have many that have self-deported, not even using the CBP Home app. When I have gone to these other countries to negotiate security agreements and information sharing on criminals, who's coming and going into their countries, they report that hundreds of thousands have come home that weren't on our radar, that they are coming home on their own and self-deporting because they want the chance to be able to go back to America someday. So we believe it's over 1 million, possibly more than that. I'm asking all of those countries for their information on what they have of individuals that may have returned home, that they have taking advantage of their programs to help them become a part of their civilization again too. So we know it's over 1 million, but we have to, I'm getting more information, and that number will grow.
If they don't leave, they never get the chance to come back. If we have to take them out, and we will, they'll go out, but they never get a chance to come back. The other way, we actually make it a little bit easier for them to come back. Okay? Thank you. Good question. Thank you.
The bill is now passed in the Senate, but we are already hearing from some Republicans in the House who say they cannot get on board with the changes that were made to the bill in the Senate. What is your message to those holdouts?
Well, I just heard that about the Senate, and the bill just passed, and it tells you there's something for everyone. I mean, it's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate.
And just to be clear, on the Medicaid cuts, you've promised not to cut Medicaid, said this is all just targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. Are you saying that the estimated 11.8 million people who could lose their health coverage, that is all waste, fraud, and abuse?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's going to be a very much smaller number than that, and that number will be waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you look, they took a much more liberal stance on the Medicaid situation than they could have. They had a tough stance and a weak stance. They took not a very strong stance on that to start off, and it's waste, fraud, and abuse, and everybody wants that covered.
What number is that? What analysis are you seeing?
I'm not seeing a number, but I know it's much less than the number you gave, and we really were very, very cognizant of three things. Social Security, we're going to take care of it beautifully. Medicare and Medicaid, and we are going to save it, whereas the Democrats are going to, you won't have it. They will destroy Medicare and Medicaid, and they have to because their numbers don't work. So it's not going to happen. They're the ones that have destroyed Medicare. They have made it so bad already, they're going to make it a lot worse. But now we'll be in charge, so we're going to have no problem with Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. Thank you. Yeah.
Claire Gall with Wink News in Fort Myers. What is your direction to ICE when it comes to arresting farm workers here illegally, other workers in industries that are pretty critical to Florida's economy?
Yeah. Well, we're very much cognizant of that, and as you know, I won the farmers by 92%, and I'm not going to be abandoning my farmers. We were strong on the borders, but we're also strong for the farmers and for others. in the hotel industry, et cetera. You know, we have similar situations. And Christie and I, and we'll be working with Ron and a lot of the states. We're going to work something where the farmers can be responsible for some of the people that have, and they have people around for 10, 15 years that they know very well. We're going to put them responsible and we're going to issue a form of a card or document, and the farmer's going to be responsible for these people. They're not going to have citizenship, but they'll be working, they'll be paying taxes. We need to get our farmers the people they need, otherwise our farmers aren't going to be able to do their land. You know, it was tried once before, many, many years ago, where there was a very strong guy, and he got everybody out, and every farm almost in the country, but every farm in California, every farm in Iowa, almost all the farms went bankrupt. They had nobody to work, and we don't want to have that situation. So we're going to work it. We're going to put our farmers and others in charge of the people that they have under them. They know the people, and I think it's going to work out really well. We're going to take care of our farmer, but we're going to get the criminals out, okay? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, how do you respond to critics who fear that a 3,000-bed detention center and the waste that that could produce will pollute the surrounding federal protected land, including land that both administrations have invested billions of dollars in restoring?
Well, I was one of those that invested billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars right here in the Meadowlands, but in the Everglades, and the Meadowlands too in New York. If you look at what we did up there, speaking of the Meadowlands, a lot of places like this, but this is a very unique one. One thing I'll say about this land, we'll be gone a million years and this land is still going to be here. It's not going to be much different. You'll have the water moccasins, you'll have the alligators. You may not have people, but you're going to have all those animals. They're going to be around, and you got plenty of them out here. I think it was a brilliant choice, and I think almost anybody in his or her right mind would say this was a brilliant choice. I give the governor a lot of credit for using this piece of land. And in addition to that, it's on top of something that was already developed. It's an airport. You know, you have the runways, you have so it's already been developed. So it's not like you're dropping dirt right into the thing. There was zero movement of that. That was done many years ago because the airport's very old, but it was an abandoned railroad, an abandoned airport. And frankly, it's like perfect. And you can do expansion on this site substantially without doing anything. So the people, I heard them complaining about the Everglades. There's no, I don't think you've done anything to the Everglades. I think you're just enhancing it. This was already here. How long has the airport been here?
Decades.
Many decades, yeah.
And they have, Kevin, all these guys, you know, have a waste plan, like the wastewater gets trucked out, potable water gets, literally, they have, even our DOT has put things up in case there's any seepage, which we don't. So you are literally doing this on concrete that's already here. So I don't think those are valid and even good faith criticisms, because it's not going to impact the Everglades at all. President's been a champion, we've been a champion, really changed the game in Florida on it. I think it's just people don't want to see illegal immigrants deported, and that's their ideology, and they have a right to that. But illegal immigration's unpopular, so they know that they're going to have less effect trying to do it. So they're going to try, oh, well, no, it's just about the Everglades. But really, I think a lot of those people, they just don't want to see illegals deported. Because if you actually hear everyone's here, you obviously know there's zero land that's being disturbed.
Well, you know, when we talk about popularity, though, I will say I ran on the issue of illegals, and we have to get them out. And I won 82% on that issue. So I think that they may not like certain aspects of it, but ultimately they do not want them in their country. And if this is a part of a use, but I think from an environmental standpoint, it's incredible. In fact, when we landed that very big, heavy plane today, they came out and checked it fairly. You know, I think they want the president to be able to land on a piece of concrete that's not going to go 6 feet underground. And they checked it. They came back and they said, this thing is really solid. So it's been there a long time. It's going to be here a long time, and it was a great choice of a site. Thank you. Yes, please. Brian, go ahead.
Yes, sir. The people of Syria were recently seen on the streets waving American flags, chanting Trump, Trump, Trump. They're so appreciative of the economic sanctions that was lifted on that country, giving them a little bit of hope for prosperity. You want to comment on that?
Well, they're great people, and the man that is leading them has a reputation. You know, he's the head of some pretty tough organizations, and a lot of people criticized me for that. I said, well, what are we going to do, take him out of a day school, a country day school? it's going to be by nature. I would think, Ron, they'll be pretty tough, and he is pretty tough. But I think I met him, spent a lot of time with him. Good guy. I took off the sanctions because if I didn't do that, they wouldn't have had a chance. And Syria has a chance. You know, the people are great. They work hard. They're very smart. It used to be a place of professionals, accountants and lawyers and doctors and high academic credentials in that part of the world. And I think it's going to work out great. I took off the sanctions, and they were very appreciative. They were shocked, but they were very appreciative. We're giving them a chance at survival. With the sanctions, it couldn't have worked. Thank you.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zorhan Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mandami.
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more in the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. We're going to look at everything, and ideally. He's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist. You know, I've always said, we will not have socialism in this country. In the speeches, I said, well, what? They skipped socialism. And you got a lot of them like that. And you see AOC, she's out there with her, bad IQ. She's out there ranting and raving about how wonderful he is. And look, so far he's winning. He still has a race to win, but so far he's winning, and he has an advantage as a Democrat in New York City. I was there a long time ago, and it was a long time since a Republican won the city, but you would think that a Republican would be able to win. Or you have a good independent running, Mayor Adams, who's a very good person. I helped him out a little bit. He had a problem, and he was unfairly hurt over this question. He made a statement to the effect that this is terrible. New York City can't have all these immigrants come in, and like he was indicted the following day. And I said, that was a phony indictment, and it was a phony indictment. That was a Biden indictment. I said, don't feel bad. I got indicted 5 times every time you opened your mouth. That was a bad group. That was a very dangerous group, I will tell you. These were not nice people. That was the only thing they could do. They had no policy. They had no skill. They had no anything. But they were very good at that. They were vicious, vicious, horrible people. Thank you very much. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Anna Giratelli with Washington Examiner. Governor DeSantis has proposed using National Guard, deputizing them as immigration judges to get through this massive backlog of people in the immigration court. Would you be open to that?
Yes, he has my approval. Okay. That wasn't too hard to get, was it, Ron? He didn't even have to ask me, James. You didn't even need James to ask me. He has my approval, okay? Good. I also like what he's doing in Okeechobee. He has my approval for that, too. I don't know how we work that out, but we'll work it out.
We'll follow up.
Go ahead. Please.
President Trump, Jake Stofan with Action News Jax from up in Jacksonville. There's some talk about a facility similar to this up in Camp Blanding. Has that been approved by DHS? If not, what's the timeline? When could we see ground break on that?
Well, I'll ask Ron or James to talk about it. Do you want to mention it, James?
The overarching plan, I think the secretary has said she supports the whole plan, so you guys are going to keep going. Yeah.
So, Mr. President, just specifically, the response for proposals is out for that today. It closes, I can't even remember what day of the week it is, but it closes on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Then we will do notice to proceed. So I would say right after our wonderful Independence Day, we will be starting construction there at that facility.
You're going to have another big runway there, too.
That's great. Wow. Boy, I love these runways. It's very convenient, I must say. Having a runway is a nice thing. Today, you don't get runways approved. I will tell you, it's tough to get a runway. Although in the age of Trump, you get them approved fast. We're approving massive electrical bins, what they call them bins, but big electrical facilities for all of the factories and the AI that's coming in. They're going to build their own electric. They're going to be really, they're going to be made into electrical providers. They're going to have a lot left over. They'll put it into the grid. I think, well, they're going to end up doing so much. They'll put it into the grid. Won't even cost anything from their standpoint. But so we have a lot of that happening. We get approvals fast. So, but I was just saying, runways are hard to get, but we'll get them now. But in the past, I would say over the past 30, 40 years, when you can get a runway, that was considered gold. Okay, please, go ahead. Go ahead. Sure. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
President Trump, Laverne McGee, News 6, Orlando. You have fulfilled several campaign promises, along with the help of Governor Ron DeSantis. What is the next campaign promise that you plan to fulfill to the American people?
So, we have turned this country around in less than 6 months. And when I was away, and I was telling Ron, I was telling some others, I've said it a little publicly, I guess, but I met a lot of very important people. The King of Saudi Arabia, I was there 2 weeks ago, and Qatar, the leader of Qatar, who's great, and the leader of UAE, who's great. These are very substantial people, very smart people, and good people. And all three of them said essentially the same thing, along with many other people, because I just left NATO. NATO's we took it up to 5%. Nobody can believe that one run. That would be hard, but nobody believes that. What happened in NATO, over $1 trillion a year from like nothing. It was an honor. But every leader said that a year ago, this country was dead. They had no confidence in the United. They really felt it was a dead country, and it was some bad things were going to happen. But they used the term, it was a dead country, and now they said you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now. And we turned it around fast. I thought it would take longer than this. We turned it around fast. Some of it was psychology, and we had to know how good we were. But others was getting rid of rules, regulations, and all of the things that I got rid of already. I signed more executive orders than anybody in history, times like 3 or 4. And I got rid of just one. I got rid of the other night. You buy a house, they have a faucet in the house, Joe, and the faucet, the water doesn't come out. They have a restrictor. You can't, in areas where you have so much water, they don't know what to do with it. You have a shower head, the shower doesn't, you think it's not working. It is working. The water's dripping out. And that's no good for me. I like this hair nice and, I like that hair nice and wet. You have to stand in the shower for 20 minutes before you get the soap out of your hair. And I put a thing in, and it sounds funny, but it's really not. It's horrible. And when you wash your hands, you turn on the faucet, no water comes out. You're washing, the water barely comes out. So this was done by crazy people. And I wrote it all off and got it approved in Congress so that they can't just change it, because I did it in my first term. Everyone was so happy. And then one of the first things that Biden did when he came back is he put the restriction on showers, toilets, and sinks. Put this restriction, and washing machines. Washing machine, they give you like a quarter of this bottle to do your clothing. And people needed 10 of these bottles. And the people came to me from Whirlpool, and they said, we can't make a machine that's competitive. We can't make a machine anymore. It doesn't work. Why? They don't let us use water. Do you have any problems with water? No, we have so much we don't know what to do with it. You know, it comes down from heaven, right? And I approved all of that, the washing machines, the whole thing. The dishwashers, that was the other one. They give you like this much water right up to there to do your dishes. So people, you know what they do? They keep pressing the button. So they end up doing the dishes 10 times. They end up using more water than you would have used if you did it right in the first place. So all of that stuff has been written off. It sounds crazy. It's little things. The straw, I let you go back to a plastic straw. I was tired of having straws melt in my mouth, you know? It wasn't working. The paper wasn't working too well. So these are little things that I did. Then we have the big things. We have the biggest things, and that has to do with some of the subjects we're talking now. I think the things we're talking about now are the biggest, because if you don't have borders in this country, borders and good elections, and we're working on that next. There's some bills coming in that's going to make sure that you're a citizen, that people aren't counted in the voting when, you know, they were here and they're here as illegals and they're criminals in many cases, and they give them a count. And you end up with extra congressmen. We're going to work on that. We're going to straighten that out next. That's going to be easy compared to what we were doing. But we did the big things, too. But little things like that, a straw, little things like a washing machine with no water. People go out, they spend all their money on a washing machine. The damn thing doesn't work. You can't use the water. Then you go to your sink, and that doesn't work either. You're stuck. You know what you do? You have dirty plates the next day. That's it. And we solved so many common sense problems. And they weren't easy. You know, there are people that really believe in this stuff. But, you know, most states have so much water, they don't know what to do with it. And look at North Carolina. I mean, they had a lot of water, and they have to get restrictors on their, you know, on their kitchen faucet. So we're very proud of the things we did, and we're going to do a lot more of them. Yeah, please, go ahead. You guys in good shape.
Hey, it's Eric Bowling. How you doing, sir? Something we've talked about for, I'd say, better part of 20 years. I think it's something near and dear to your heart, energy, our energy security.
Yeah.
Under Joe Biden, average price of oil for the 4 years was about $79 a barrel. He drained the SPR halfway down, promised to replenish it, never did.
Right.
Under you, first term, $53 average price for 4 years. Biden was $78 for 8 years. It was never refilled. The question is now it's $64 or so.
Yeah.
What
coming down rapidly.
Coming down, and what a great opportunity to fix another one of Joe Biden's problems, one of the things he broke in America, giving us the energy security of an emergency SPR,
Sure.
fill it to, maybe even go beyond and fill it to 1 billion barrels this time at a much cheaper price. Thoughts on the energy sector?
So it holds 77 million barrels, and we had it up to the top, if you remember. And I was proud of that, and I made a deal to buy it at the lowest price of oil. It was a good deal, good instinct. And we filled it up, and when he came in, he started using it to keep oil prices down because he blew our energy policy out. Energy and his bad spending is what caused inflation. So now we have no inflation. Gasoline just hit $1.99 today in 5 states. $1.99, isn't that a nice sound? It was up to $4, and going up to $5, $6, and $7. In California, it was $7.70. But we just hit in five states, $1.99, $1.98. And it's coming down to that level, so that'll be a big thing. And one of the reasons the prices and costs are going down when you go to the supermarket, because I said I was going to get costs down. We're getting the cost down. Food is coming down. When I came out, my first week, if you remember, I had a lunatic reporter screaming at me saying, eggs are going through the roof. What are you going to do about eggs? I said, I just got here. I didn't know anything about eggs. I had to call you. I said, look, I just got here. Tell me the problem. Well, they're doubled in price, and they're going to be 5 or 6 times higher. They were right, actually. I said, let me work on it. And now we have eggs down to the same numbers it was when I first came in. You know, we lowered the cost of groceries. A simple word like that, groceries, it was like almost a strange word. I hadn't heard the word in so long, but what could be more beautiful than the word grocery? And we have the prices way down. We have the energy way down. Energy brought the groceries down, if you want to know the truth. And, you know, so we think we're going to get it lower, and we're going to fill up the it's called the Strategic National Reserves. I had it topped out, and this guy would use them every time before the election. He'd use them whenever they had an election. It was artificial. But believe it or not, as big as that are tens of hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, all filled up at low prices. But it was really meant for wars, and it wasn't meant for keeping your prices down during a holiday so that somebody could get elected. But they used it, and they didn't bring it. The only mistake you made, they didn't bring it a little down. They brought it right down to the bottom. The thing is practically empty. They never filled it up. They never spent 10 cents in filling it up. And we'll do that. When the market is right, we'll fill it up. I want to fill it up when the market's right. Thank you. How about one more question? Okay, please, in the back.
Dana Marie McNichol, Fox News Channel. Mr. President, is there an expected time frame that detainees will spend here, days, weeks, months? And does that have anything to do with the immigration judges you just spoke about being trained and staffed here?
When you say, what was the first part of your question?
Is there a specific time frame you expect the detainees to spend here? Days, weeks, months?
In Florida?
Yes, here at Alligator Alcatraz.
I'm going to spend a lot. Look, this is my home state. I love it. I love your government. I love all the people around. These are all friends of mine. They know them very well. I mean, I'm not surprised that they do so well. They're great people. Ron has been a friend of mine for a long time. I feel very comfortable in the state. I'll spend a lot of time here. I want to, for 4 years, I've got to be in Washington, and I'm okay with it because I love the White House. I even fix up the little Oval Office. I make it, it's like a diamond. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It wasn't maintained properly, I will tell you that. But even when it wasn't, it was still the Oval Office, so it meant a lot. But I'll spend as much time as I can here. You know, my vacation is generally here because it's convenient. I live in Palm Beach. It's my home. And I have a very nice little place, nice little cottage to stay at, right? But we have a lot of fun, and I'm a big contributor to Florida. You know, pay a lot of tax, and a lot of people move from New York, and I don't know what New York is going to do. A lot of people moved to Florida from New York, and it was for a lot of reasons, but one of them was taxes. The taxes are so high in New York, they're leaving. I don't know what New York's going to do about that, because some of the biggest, wealthiest people and some of the people that pay the most taxes of any people anywhere in the world, for that matter, they're moving to Florida and other places. So we're going to have to help some of these states out, I think. But thank you very much. I'll be here as much as I can. Very nice question. With that, I'd like to just end by saying I want to thank Ron and James and all of the people that have done such a great job, all of your staff. Really fantastic work. And it really started with site selection. You can do a great job, but if you have the wrong site in real estate, you have the wrong site, you're dead. And this was a great site selection, despite what you may read in the environmental press. Good job. And this was an honor for Christy and myself and Steve and all of our people to be here. And I also appreciate the media. They've treated us very fairly. Over the last few weeks, I've been treated very nicely. And it's so unusual. I'm not used to it, but we've gotten great accolades. Brian, I want to thank you for calling out, because I was waiting here, because I knew the vote was taking place and I'm answering questions, right? So I want to thank you very much and say hello to our friend. And I will see a lot of you. Thank you very much. We're going to make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Father.
All right, there you have it. President Trump wrapping up his tour of the new immigration detention center within the Florida Everglades. It's dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. That facility will be able to house some 50,000 detainees. The president, as you can see, was flanked by Governor Ron DeSantis and a number of ICE leaders and U.S. representatives. I should also make mention the detention center is really a temporary camp. It is alongside an 11,000-foot runway at an airfield mainly used for training flights. All of this taking place while the Senate, in essence, has passed the big, beautiful bill. But it wasn't easy. The vote was 50-50, and Vice President J.D. Vance was in the chamber to cast the tie-breaking vote. After that happened, the president spoke out, saying, well, obviously there is something for everyone. That bill now heads to the House of Representatives, and according to the president, he seems to think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate. We'll take a quick break. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. It is now 1 minute past the top of the hour. Just minutes ago, President Trump wrapped up his tour of the newest migrant detention center, this one in the Florida Everglades, dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. That center is on the seldom used airfield. It will house 5,000 migrants in tents, and immigration rights activists and environmentalists object to the location, as do members of Florida's indigenous community. To explain what happens next, we now welcome longtime immigration attorney and founder of immigration law firm USA for All, Renata Castro, back here on the Live Zone. Thank you so much for being patient, Renata. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and never a dull moment in immigration law.
I got to tell you, it's been a busy day and, well, quite honestly, a busy last 6 months. In this case, we're talking about Alligator Alcatraz. A lot of concerns for a number of folks. I'm curious what happens to be yours.
At this time, my major concern is when we look at immigration law and the lack of access to counsel, this specific location will certainly create additional barriers for detainees to get immigration attorneys to represent them because of the challenges in getting to this location. But more importantly than that, immigration judges throughout the United States are already committing violations to due process and being biased in their judgment of immigration cases. I don't think that this is going to be an issue to Alligator Alcatraz alone. We must look at the impartiality of the immigration courts, make sure that it is a separate court and not something that it is so indiscriminately used by the federal government, depending on where the pendulum swings, to push for votes and political accord without preserving and respecting the American legal system and due process.
So, Renata, who do you first think will end up there, and how will they be legally represented should they end up there?
Well, I have a feeling that to fill 5,000 to 6,000 beds, the number of immigrants who are in the United States and who are considered dangerous or who have committed crimes, I always say, I have yet to see an immigrant that is hardworking construction person during the day and moonlights as a criminal by night. Usually individuals who end up in these detention facilities, they are people who are hardworking, no criminal record. They are just there to move this financial mill that makes a lot of people very rich in the United States. And one of them is most likely the Gene Group, which is a private immigration facility, detention facility operator in Boca Raton, and a major donor to the Trump administration's campaign. So I would not think that this facility will house criminals. It will house hardworking folks that are here doing the work that America needs done, paying taxes, and just will be eaten alive by a system that is designed to make them fail.
During the president's roundtable discussion, we heard a question posed to the president that surrounded whether or not another facility would be built in the Jacksonville, Florida area, to which the president said, well, he's not opposed to that happening. Yet again, curious, is it legal in the state level of Florida, not only that, but on the national level to continue to build these facilities?
It is unquestionably legal, and most importantly, why isn't the House and the Senate, why aren't they getting involved in limiting the indiscriminate use of federal funds at a time where it seems like Kristi Noem has a blank check to use for her glam and for immigration enforcement without any concern for the budgetary problems that we have in the United States today? So illegal, yes. Moral, certainly not.
Well, as is the case with anything, it's all about oversight. And with oversight, I mean, who will oversee the conditions and or whether or not the conditions are living up to the status quo at this facility?
These immigration agencies have designated ombudsmen, and they are the organizations or the areas within the agency responsible for making sure that the minimum standards are being followed in detention facilities. In recent years, we have seen a number of violations, and I think that one of the concerns that I, as a practicing attorney, I have seen the federal government have complete disregard to local and state codes, fire codes, occupancy codes. We have seen this in Miramar, Florida. We have seen this in immigration courts in Orlando, for example, where people line up in the sun for hours without access to a bathroom. And other businesses would be fined if engaging in this kind of conduct, but somehow the federal government gets a blank pass. I hope that more organizations keep the federal government in check to make sure the violations are not being committed. And I think it's important to say, no matter who is in the White House, we are still a nation of laws. And it's very important that we choose to follow them, because that's what makes America a great democracy.
Well, we now know, and I think we can all say, at least for the next 3 years, we know who will be in the White House. And so with that being said, this facility will at least be open for the next 3 years. Is there a legal argument in which a way someone can go about to close this facility?
I think that the best group that may have a legal argument against the operation of this facility are the local Native Americans, who apparently this encroaches on their land, impacts their use of land. So from an immigration standpoint, I think there's very, very little standing to challenge the construction and the operation of a facility. But I think that when you look at the environmental impact, the use of funds, and how this may be encroaching on the use of land by other groups, this may be the way for the government to have this facility shut down, because it violates other other legal rights that other groups may have in the immediate area surrounding this facility.
Renata, we'll end with this, and it's somewhat of a going off on a tangent here, but we now know that the big, beautiful bill has passed in the Senate. It now heads to the House. Should it pass, a part of Trump's plan to remove undocumented immigrants from this country, we know that ICE will receive some $45 billion for detention facilities, something similar to what we just saw happen in Florida. I'm curious, your response to this?
I wonder where I have a teenage son, and in his words, this math ain't mathing, because the United States is having a hard time economically. And I don't say this at a very high level. Anyone who's watching this show who's had to go grocery shopping or look for a job has felt the financial pinch. Where is the federal government getting more money and investing more money in something that costs us money, reduces taxable contributions because migrants pay taxes, they generate jobs, they fulfill jobs? Why are we turning a blind eye to the fact that these individuals are looking for a way to stay in the country legally and contribute and fill jobs that, quite frankly, a lot of people don't want to fill, but they're essential to our economy? Why are we investing billions of dollars fighting against American interests just because it sounds right? That's not why America became such a strong economy. We must look hard at how this is going to impact us in the long term. And even though I am not a mathematician, I am quite sure that this addition is just not going to happen.
Which is why all eyes will now be on the House of Representatives to see if they, too, pass the big, beautiful bill. Yet again, we have been speaking with immigration attorney and founder of immigration law firm USA for All, Renata Castro, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Truly appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. On the flip side of that break, it's our Tuesday Talkers. It's coming up next, right here on the Live Zone. All right, guys, just like that, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Let's have a little fun, shall we? We call this our Tuesday Talkers. Some of the stories that you folks are talking about on social media. In this case, we're going to be joined by, hey, my friend is back, Sasha Perea, right here on the Live Zone, former Miss DC, and so many more titles. Sasha, what's your latest title with regard to the DC government?
Yes, I'm officially a DC Commissioner for Fashion Arts and Events.
Yeah, that's what I just call Miss Cool. Because you were all things that and more. Well, speaking of cool, one of the things that a lot of folks are focusing on happens to be, you heard of a hot girl summer? Well, in this case, we're talking about Gen Z women now flocking to convents with nuns. What? Take a look at this. Apparently, a lot of Gen Z women are saying, you know what? I want some peace in my life. They're even taking a vow of silence and booking stays at Catholic convents. Forget the hot girl summer. It's all about a nun girl summer. What say you about this, Sasha?
You know, I think hot girl summer might be officially baptized. Between dating app fatigue, worrying if a guy is going to ghost you, forget stressing about being ghosted and find the Holy Ghost. I am not mad at this. I cannot lie. Gen Z got it right.
Yeah. So the mere fact that, well, now a lot of, and I wouldn't just say women. I mean, hey, I'm a guy and, you know, I like some peace and quiet in my life as well. However, I don't think you're going to find me hanging out with a bunch of monks in order to find that peace and quiet. If anything, you know, just shut the windows, close the door, turn off all the TVs, the radio. Don't turn us off, by the way. And then, you know, take a breather. But I don't see me going on somewhat of a sabbatical, if you will.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of times it's important to find that solitude, right? Rediscover what it is that you want out of life, and then you'll be ready for cuffing season once it's fall. So even if it's not necessarily going to a covenant, I think it's good to have some solo time.
All right, well, let us know if you do it, and if so, make sure you send us some pictures. I think we'd like to see it. Just make sure it's quiet as well. Hey, are you a big fan of McDonald's?
It's been a while, but I may need to pay a visit.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too. It just doesn't sit that well in the stomach anymore. But apparently, a lot of folks are saying, hey, we're loving it in a major way. In this case, they're loving what they want McDonald's to bring back. And when I say bring back, they were discontinued. Rounding out the list, let's see, the McRib sandwich, which, by the way, I absolutely love. Don't know what it's made of, but it's good to me. How about the snack wraps? Spicy chicken McNuggets. Let's say the grilled chicken sandwich, cinnamon melts. Oh gosh, I love that during breakfast time. Hot mustard. That's best when you dip your chicken nuggets in that. And the McPizza. I'm curious, Sasha, anything on that list that really got your mouth watering?
Yeah, I can't lie, the snack wrap was one of my favorites. I felt like it was a good mixture of fast food, but still relatively healthy with the burritos and the lettuce. So if I were to go back, it would probably be for that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something about those spicy nuggets. I just like all things spicy. You heard me make mention of the hot mustard. I don't know why in the heck they would get rid of that. I mean, I thought that happened to be one of the hottest sauces on the planet. And then yet again, I'm standing true to it. The McRib. I don't care what it's made of. It could be made of rubber, but daggone it, it's good to me.
I agree. I feel like with everything going on in the world, a little nostalgia would be nice. A nice little memory lane. So hopefully they bring them back.
All right. Well, if that happens, I'll be first in line, especially to get the spicy McNugget to dip into the hot mustard. Hey, when we started this segment, you heard me make mention of you being all things cool. So it's only fair we end this segment with this, and that is, what does it take in order to be cool? Apparently, there are 6 universal traits of coolness, no matter where you are in the world. It all boils down to this: extroversion, hedonism, power, adventureness, openness, and autonomy. Apparently, a lot of folks are saying if you got that going on, you were all things cool. Anything in particular strike you about that, Sasha?
Ooh, I don't know anything in particular. Maybe the one about power and autonomy, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, I think of like when parents say like it's the inside that counts. You know, energy speaks for itself, so I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. For me, it's probably the openness thing. You know, one of the things that I think you learn as you age is that the more open you are, the cooler you become, because it just shows, I think, quite honestly, you don't give a damn. And so when that happens, you seem to be cool. And so that's what I'm trying to practice right now in my life. I'm not there yet, but I'm sure pretty soon I can get to that cool point, and hopefully it'll happen right here while y'all are watching this show. Sasha, always good to see you. You working on anything special?
Still pageant coaching, which is really exciting. It's pageant season right now, so I'm staying busy with girls across the country, so it's been exciting.
Absolutely awesome, absolutely cool, and absolutely appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone. Yet again, we've been speaking with Sasha Perea. I just love it when you come on the show. It's always fun. This is what we call our Tuesday Talkers right here on the LZ. We'll see you soon, Sasha.
See you soon. Thank you so much, Guy.
No doubt. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, it's summertime, which means, well, a lot of folks are taken to the beach, to the pool, but are you familiar with pool and beach safety? We're talking water safety in a major way. That's coming up next, right here on the Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, it's no secret, school's out and outdoor activities are ramping up. But did you know that the drowning, with regard to drowning, happens to be one of the #1 causes of death for children ages 1 through 4 right here in the U.S.? Now one woman is hoping to bring more awareness and encourage water safety for families, spending time at the pool, lake, and ocean this summer, which, by the way, happens to be my favorite. Please meet Melissa Hall. She's a mother, best-selling author, international speaker, media host, master coach, CEO. She also tragically lost her 4-year-old son to a drowning accident and has spent the last 2 decades on a journey of grief, heartbreak, and healing. Melissa joins us right now on the Live Zone. Melissa, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right into this. With regard to summertime, for me, I think all things pool, as you heard me make mention, but most importantly, the beach. Oh my gosh, I just love jumping in the ocean. However, safety needs to be top of mind, and that's why, yet again, you are here. Drowning, it continues to amaze me to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is that when you think of it, I think of the movies, and you see what happens, but that's not what really happens in real life.
No, it is not. And tragically, we lose more children to drowning than we do to birth defects or car accidents every year. And oftentimes, these deaths are largely preventable. So it's important to educate ourselves about water safety long before we ever think about stepping near water, bodies of water, pools, oceans, lakes, streams. Education is paramount.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about this is that you have come up with a plan with not 1, not 2, but 3 actions one can actually implement in order to make sure, well, yet again, safety is top of mind.
Absolutely. The first thing that I recommend is having a designated water watcher, which is a responsible adult who understands that there is no room for distractions, no phones, no drinking, no assumptions that another parent is watching the child. They are there dedicated and solely focused on the child that they've been assigned to watch. The other thing that I think is important to remember is not to overwhelm water watchers by assigning too many children. The ratio should never be more than 1 to 3. The second thing that we can do is rehearse water safety and rules. What happens if you do fall into the water? A child should know how to float on their back and or make it to the edge of the pool so that they can call out for help. And the third is that we need to equip everyone properly. That means using U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets and not floaties or inflatable toys.
Yeah, Melissa, I can't tell you how many times I've been at the pool and, well, I'm sitting there reading a book or listening to my music in my headphones, and I can't necessarily hear, but I can see what's going on around me. And so many times I see parents, well, let's say having a conversation with another parent, not keeping an eye on little Jimmy or Jessica. Isn't supervision key as well?
Supervision is the key. We can never assume that somebody else is watching our children or that children are safe when there are many people around. Tragically, oftentimes that's when the most drownings do occur. They occur typically in backyard settings around family gatherings, barbecues, and celebrations.
So obviously, when you're thinking about, well, all things safety, I think the best way to go about it is what they say is tough love, or in this case, just getting straight to the truth. And as they say, the hard truth saves lives, does it not?
That is the truth. We have to become very mindful about the topic of water safety and drowning prevention in order to truly bring those statistics down. We can never assume that somebody else has our children in sight. We can never assume that it's okay to be distracted even for a few seconds, because drowning is silent. It is not like what we see in the movies where there's a lot of splashing and calls or cries for help. It's oftentimes very silent. It happens within 30 seconds, and it can happen in just a few inches of water.
And so at what point should we have these conversations with our kids? Because yet again, I remember as soon as I got to the pool, Mom, Dad, I'm out of here, jumping off the diving board. I don't want to have a conversation. Perhaps that conversation should have been had maybe earlier or the night before.
Actually, I think that you can never start too early. Water education is something that we should be talking to our children about as in around two is when they're they're able to comprehend certain rules and what rules do. They're there to keep them safe. And that's when I think that we should really begin to talk to them. And I also think that it's important to be proactive and put our children into swimming lessons at an early age so that they're comfortable with water. They understand how to swim to the edge of the pool and hold on in case they do fall in and need help.
Obviously, you heard me make mention of, let's say, the pool and or the ocean, but there are other bodies of water that perhaps children don't frequent as much, and so they need to be educated about that as well, one of which would happen to be perhaps the irrigation canal or fountains and or ditches. So many times they're overlooked.
Absolutely. Tragically, my son passed away in an irrigation canal, and drowning increases, the rates of drowning increase in rural and agricultural communities by 2.5%. These bodies of water are easily accessible. Very rarely are they fenced, and they are never monitored. So they are particularly dangerous, and we all must be mindful of our surroundings.
Yeah, important information as yet again we celebrate all things summer, but we want to make sure we do so safely. Melissa, you heard me make mention of the book. Do tell us all about it.
So Dear Drew, Creating a Life Bigger Than Grief is my journey through the accident of losing my son and what grief meant to me in the beginning, middle, and final stages. I don't know that we ever truly overcome the loss of our child, but we can learn to create a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment alongside it. And that's what this book is really dedicated towards. It's dedicated toward that griever who's looking for a pathway to actualize all of the things that they believe might be outside of their reach. A life of joy, that sense of having safety restored, and just looking towards the future with optimism, seeing possibilities and not just the pain.
Wow. Well, Melissa, I want to say thank you for writing it. Thank you for having that courage to do so. I can only imagine it's not easy, but because of you, others can perhaps move forward because you've been able to share your pain. Truly appreciate you coming on the show. Yet again, we've been speaking with Melissa.
I appreciate being here.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
All right, guys. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, the countdown is on, and in just a couple of days, we will celebrate the 4th of July. For me, there's no better place on the planet to do so than right here in the nation's capital. You see it right there on your TV screen. We're talking about 4th of July in the District 2025 concert. Oh, that's my favorite F-letter word right there as well. Free. But don't let me tell it. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by LaToya Foster. She is the director of DC Office of Cable, Television, Film, and Music and Entertainment to tell us all about this amazing event. Always good to see you, LaToya.
Guy, your voice is just absolutely beautiful. Oh my God, how are you, my friend?
I am great, and I am so excited about this upcoming event. I got to tell you, you all have been busy, and I mean with all capital letters, B-U-S-Y.
Well, you know, that's what we do, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. You know, busy, spurring tourism and growth and economic impact, specifically downtown. And as you stated, Guy, on this upcoming Friday, the 4th of July, now, you know, as a kid, I was always the one that was down on the National Mall with the blanket and watching the fireworks. But you don't have to just do that anymore when you're here in the city, right? Mayor Bowser has teamed up once again. This is the 3rd annual Mayor Bowser and CNN 4th of July concert in downtown DC. So we get started at 5 p.m. Down at 12th and Pennsylvania Avenue with the U.S. Air Force Band, and they're going to be joined by The War and Treaty. Now, many people may not know Tanya Blunt from War and Treaty is a DC girl. She's from here. So she's a native daughter of the city. We also have Quicksilver. DJ Quicksilver will be with us. Grammy-nominated Jeremiah. Go-Go. We got to be go-going with DC Vibe, and so much more is going to be taking place in downtown DC. And of course, Mayor Bowser says you got to make everything family friendly. So we're going to have that kids zone going back by popular demand. Kids are going to be racing up and down the street on these scooters. We've got video games. We've got food trucks, cotton candy, popcorn, you name it. It's all going down right downtown at 12th and Pennsylvania Avenue. And Guy, let me also put this bug in everyone's ear. As of this 4th of July, the countdown is on for the semi-quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of our country. So we're going to be gearing up for a number of events leading up to next year's 4th of July, because that's the big one. Talk about doing the big one, that's the big one.
I got to tell you, LaToya, my best part about all of what you said is that you were able to say quincentennial without stuttering, because I stutter all the time when I say that.
It took a long time. It took a long time. I kept looking, I was like,
So one of the things that you all are focusing on and that I absolutely love, and I see it right behind you as well, it's the hashtag #BeDowntown. Can you speak to the importance of that?
You know, so Mayor Bowser, even over the past couple of years, she's had a real focus on making sure that we are downtown, making sure that we are creating economic impact for downtown. Downtown is the economic engine for our city, which was so vital when Mayor Bowser was working to get Monumental Sports to stay here in the city, those businesses in downtown. All of that economic impact that comes from downtown, you know, our government employees, workers in the downtown area, you know, that is the economic engine for our city, quite frankly. Now, we could talk about its economic impact across all 8 wards, but downtown in any city, any big city, is vital to the rest of the city. So we encourage everyone to come downtown, be downtown. And I don't know if you saw, did you see where Metro is offering free rides?
You know what? I did see that. Yeah, I ride the Metro every day, so I'm very familiar. You know, I use it in order to get here every day. But to find out that they were free, yeah, I'm actually not going to be here on Friday, so I'm a little upset because I could have actually ridden it for free for one day. But I guess I'll have to just take it and come see you, LaToya.
Look, we want you to come down, Guy, and we want all of the Fox 5, the Live Zone family to come down and join us. Again, take advantage of these free opportunities. that Mayor Bowser is bringing to the city. She's had a number of them. She continues to make sure that we are investing in our families, that we are investing in tourism, that we're investing in our small businesses. Let's make sure that we are spreading the word. Come one, come all, bring your friend, bring the household, bring the whole family down, and let's have a good, safe time on the 4th of July.
And yet again, performing Jeremiah. You all had me right there. When I saw that, I said, oh, okay, you're doing it really big this year,
The
Latoya.
Grammy-nominated Jeremiah.
Yeah,
And,
awesome.
and let me tell you something, the U.S. Air Force Band, I'm gonna have to say it, they crank. You all really gotta check out, no, seriously, uniforms and all, they are out there, they crank. And when they come together with other artists, oh, they are amazing. You got to see it for yourself. You really do.
Never in a million years did I think I would hear the word crank and U.S. Air Force Band in one sentence.
I promise you, I promise you. Come down and check it out for yourself. I kid you not. Spread the word. They will tell you the same. They get it in, for real.
I cannot wait to see this. Yet again,
you
it's
something you gotta see.
It's all set to take place this upcoming 4th of July. Let's put it up there full screen again so folks can see it. Latoya, please do tell folks that want to find out more information, how can we go about to do so?
Well, you can go and RSVP, and you'll see the RSVP link here on the screen. You can also learn more about all the things we're doing in our summer of concerts and events and festivals at summer.dc.gov. You can also follow our office at entertain_DC, and as well as at 202 Creates. And of course, always follow the mayor at, of course, at Mayor Bowser to learn more. And a shout out to all of our friends who are in this with us together. Events DC, my sister, President Dr. Angie Gates, Thanie Freeman, Director of DPR, and a host of others who are in this with us. We can't tell you how much we appreciate everyone. We come together to make big things happen for our city and for our residents.
And you all do it oh so well. Yet again, we've been speaking with Latoya Foster. She is the director of the DC Office of Cable, Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, and joined us right here on the LZ. I'll see you on Friday, Latoya.
We cannot wait, guys. Spread the word. Tell a friend. Come one, come all. Come early.
Will do. All right, guys. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I want to mention that today is the birthday for Congresswoman Leisure Fernandez. So let's give her a happy birthday greeting. Well, first you got to get that cake with the candles and blow them all out, right? So we're not going to sing the Boehner song to you. Today, the Rules Committee is convening to consider a single measure, the Senate amendment to H.R. 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. With the Senate having completed its respective process, H.R. 1 has returned to the People's House for final consideration. And while I don't often think that the other body improves our legislation, it's important to recognize that much of what the House included in H.R. 1 when we initially passed it is still included. And I'm sure that our committee chairman will bring attention to that. Things like tax relief for working families, reducing waste, fraud, and abuse in government programs so they remain focused on those who truly need the programs, a historic investment designed to strengthen our armed forces, protect our borders, and keep Americans safe. I could go on and on about all the great things in this One Big Beautiful Bill. However, I think it's important to recognize that when this passes, it will go directly to the president's desk so that he may sign it into law and deliver a long line of massive wins for the American people. Indeed, this process has been long, and the thoughtful deliberations and efforts on part of committees, members, and staff is highly commendable. And while those diligent efforts have been undertaken by many, we have still heard the same doomsayers yelling to the rafters week after week about this legislation. Each week, they head back to the rhetorical trough, select a new inflammatory claim, and broadcast it feverishly to the masses as if the threat of the sky falling is imminent. For the record, the sky is not falling. We're all too familiar with this worn-out song and dance routine. The fact is that Americans are not fooled by these ludicrous claims. They're not buying into the fear-mongering because they know better. They see the One Big Beautiful Bill Act as a monumental opportunity, an opportunity that will spur even more prosperity within the nation and further propel America into the golden age where it truly belongs. As the Speaker laid out very succinctly, this bill gets Americans back to winning again, and yes, it's been a long time coming. From delivering historic tax relief to reigniting our economic engine, creating massive investments in border security, to capturing generational savings and much more, H.R. 1 is the embodiment of the America First agenda. And there are provisions within this legislation that Democrats and their media bedfellows remain noticeably mum about, such as the establishing of savings accounts for newborns, increasing the child tax credit by an additional $500 per child, strengthening paid leave and child care tax credits. This legislation does not have a bowed posture and the frailty of a pip.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, you are listening and or watching the House Rules Committee considering the big, beautiful bill, which passed in the Senate earlier today. After it passing, President Trump then is actually discussing and speaking about it, saying that he seems to think it's going to pass with flying colors once it makes its way to the House, which will happen within the next day or two. Now the latest on the Sean Diddy Combs sex crimes trial. This afternoon, the jury continues to deliberate for a second day. Yesterday, they deliberated for more than 5 hours. There were several takeaways, including controversy, when the jury sent a note saying they were concerned that one of the jurors could not follow the judge's instructions. The judge then sent a note back, reminding jurors of their obligation to follow his instructions on the law. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Erica Rose, entertainment and celebrity attorney, back here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Erica. Welcome back to the show. All right, let's jump into it. Obviously, there is a lot going on, and I want you to correct me if I actually am not correct with regard to what's happened thus far today. So we know initially that, well, Sean P. Diddy Combs entered the courtroom. Once he did, he walked up to his mom, leaned over and whispered to her, telling her that he had to immediately head back to his jail cell, saying, quote, "Just relax, it's going to be all right." In essence, Diddy seems to be somewhat confident that this will come out in his favor. With regard to what I made mention of earlier, and I'm referring to the jury sending the judge a note, and the jury, or the foreman, if you will, or foreperson, stating that one of the jurors said, you know what, I'm not really understanding this whole instruction thing. What do you make of that?
I think that it is grounds for appeal if they choose to do that, if the way that he wishes. I apologize if I hope this is working, but
we can see you and hear you loud and clear. We know you're traveling. Actually, you're a busy woman headed to the airport. While you do so, but
I think that it is a red flag for the jury to do that, and I think that that's probably why P. Diddy is feeling confident.
Really?
Because
So,
even if it doesn't go the way he wishes, they can appeal it.
but we also know that the jury has now been deliberating for not 2, not 4, not 5, not 8, but 10 hours now. And I'm curious, and what has history shown when it takes that long for a jury, in essence, to come up with a verdict?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the jury to come up with the verdict, especially with one of the jurors being like that disagreeable this late in the state. Like I said, it's most likely grounds for appeal. Regardless of the sentence, I don't think it would be more than 10 years, but he might walk away with doing no jail time.
Yeah. So thus far from what you've seen, a lot of folks are stating that the prosecution's case was not solid, if you will, and especially surrounding the actual RICO charges. However, with regard to the transportation issue for prostitution, a lot of folks stating that that too may be up for question. What say you about those charges?
I do think that the prosecution didn't do a good enough job proving any of those, and especially the transportation, the prostitution, and the judge's instruction was really accurate that he had to be found guilty of 2 of those charges. So I think a lot of jurors might think he might be guilty of 1 of the list, but not necessarily 2. And that's how he could get off of this.
Yeah. The jurors also, we know that they have asked for testimony to review the transcripts of testimony. In this case, we know for Mr. Daniel Phillips, yet again, what does that say when a juror or a juree incomplete says, you know what, we want to read this again. We want to know what this person had to say.
I think it just shows that the jurors are being very diligent. They're taking this really seriously. And maybe the prosecution didn't do enough in their closing statement, or in general, there's a lot going on. So I think that's good that they're taking the time to really review everything, and they're putting a lot of thought into their decision.
Yeah, well, yet again, all eyes on that New York Manhattan courthouse where P. Diddy is currently behind bars. He faces, or is charged rather, with 5 counts, 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, and 2 counts each of sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. If found guilty of the most serious charges, Diddy could face life in prison. We are all sitting on pins and needles to see what the actual verdict will be. We've been speaking with Erica Rose, trial attorney and entertainment attorney, kind enough to be here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you. Safe travels. I know you're busy.
Thank you for having me, Guy. I appreciate it.
But of course. All right, guys. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
And listen to this quote from Senator Murkowski, who just caved and voted for this bill. And you got to love this. She said, quote, "My hope is that the House is going to look at this and recognize that we're not there yet," end quote. I mean, my question to her is, if you really believe that, then why the hell did you vote for this bill? It doesn't make any sense. It's a dereliction of your duty as a United States Senator and as a representative for the people in Alaska. I mean, when was the last time this current House of Representatives has fixed or solved anything? I mean, where have you been, Senator Murkowski? This Republican House is dysfunction on steroids. And let me say to my Republican friends, I understand that the Senate just jammed you, but you don't have to be complicit. I get it. I know the Republican leadership and Trump don't want scrutiny. They don't want the American people to understand what's really happening here. This bill is a middle finger to millions of Americans. It isn't just a bad bill, it is the most dangerous piece of legislation in modern history. Dangerous because of the very real damage it will do to real people, sick people, hungry kids, families just scraping by. If this is Republicans' top legislative priority this Congress, it tells us everything about where your values lie. And it's not with working families, not with struggling communities, but with mega corporations, billionaires, and Donald Trump. Madam Chair, I know that once I'm done, you will say, as you did at the beginning, that I'm fear-mongering. That Democrats, nonpartisan scorekeepers, analysts, experts in industry, doctors, children's hospitals, food banks, utilities, organized labor, and journalists, all what they say about this bill, every legitimate critique that we have heard about this bill, you will say that it is hyperbole. But just because you say that, it doesn't make it so. Facts still do matter, and the facts say that this bill is terrible. Now, we know Republicans are about to gut Medicaid and cut Medicare. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. This bill rips health coverage away from roughly 17 million people. Of those, 11.8 million will lose health care due to the Medicaid and Affordable Care Act cuts. Another 5 million will lose their health care because Republicans are allowing premium assistance to expire for those who qualify for help with paying for health insurance on the ACA exchanges. Now, that's not my opinion. That's the conclusion of the CBO and every single other credible budget expert across the country. The Joint Committee on Taxation, Penn-Wharton Budget Model, Yale Budget Lab, Tax Policy Center, and even right-leaning organizations like the Tax Foundation and researchers at the American Enterprise Institute. This bill will devastate rural hospitals, shut down nursing homes, hammer community health centers. It will punish people we ought to protect, the elderly, the disabled, low-income kids, and working families just trying to survive. It will end nutrition assistance for millions. We are the richest country on earth, and you will be taking away food from our own children. Why? To shovel tax breaks to billionaires and corporate executives? I mean, give me a break. This bill will kill thousands of clean energy jobs and raise Americans' energy rates while rewarding big oil with billions in subsidies. Because Republicans think welfare is okay if you're ExxonMobil, but not if you're a family struggling to pay your skyrocketing power bill, or a grandma who stays in assisted living, or our parents struggling to put food on the table. It gives $150 billion more to the Pentagon, not for peace or security, but to line the pockets of defense contractors. This is on top of record levels of defense spending that we already provide the Pentagon in our annual spending bills. For all you budget hawks out there, let me ask you, when was the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? The answer is never. You're worried about someone on SNAP who gets an average of $2 per meal, might get $2.75 per meal, but you couldn't care less when millions.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Joined now with producer Chris with sizzling topics.
It's Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
It's International Joke Day. Do you have a favorite joke?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Don't know. It's called making it up on the
even
spot.
would have allowed the interrupting cow.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's where you say.
I forgot. What was it?
Interrupting cow who?
Cow who?
Moo. Anyway, this guy. Terrible.
I suck at jokes.
Most of my jokes are not appropriate for work.
Yeah.
Let me just start there. However, one of my favorite comedians, a professional joke teller, is John Mulaney. I've talked about that here before. And one that lives rent-free in my brain is from, I want to say it's like May of 2020, March of 2020. He was hosting SNL. And this is the joke. Take a listen.
Okay.
And my dad has no friends. And your dad has no friends. If you think your dad has friends, you're wrong. Your mom has friends, and they have husbands. Those are not your dad's friends.
No joke has ever more accurately captured my own father than that one right there. And as I get a little older, I find myself relating to that more and more. My wife has friends, and they have husbands. And those husbands, I end up seeing more than my own friends. However, I don't have any of their phone numbers, and I probably do not text any of them outside of those specific plans, or if we're trying to figure out something that resulted from that last meeting. Now, I am far from that was my setup to this story that I saw on GQ's Instagram page. Take a look. The cure to male loneliness is befriending your wife's friends' husbands, which tells me this is a universal issue, and it is not just me, and it is not just my dad.
Yeah. It happens
Making
a lot.
friends with your wife's friends' husbands. Do you like that idea?
Yeah. I like it, but I mean, because, well, obviously you're going to spend a lot of time, if not all your time, with your wife, and you know you want to hang out when she's hanging out with her friends. So to your point, but what's interesting is that all of, let's say, your significant other's friends, you end up really liking, at least in my case, their significant other as well, their husbands.
I don't disagree at all, but for some reason, I can't quite explain it. There's just like a little bit extra distance there for some reason. I can't quite explain it. My favorite part about this story was I saw this Instagram post. I follow GQ, so their stuff just pops up in my feed every so often. And I saw that headline. And the first thing I thought of when I saw that headline was that John Mulaney joke. I don't know why I remembered it. It probably has something to do with a couple friends of mine relating very, very closely to this. So I went back and I found that clip, I saved that image, and then I went and read the article. And you know what the very first line of the article was?
Oh gosh, what is
About a John Mulaney joke from SNL in the year 2020. literally that exact joke is
Wow.
what the author. So what
Wow.
that tells me is that author and I would probably be good friends. Because we have the same sense of humor. And apparently jokes by John Mulaney live rent-free in our head forever.
That's good stuff. And it's true. I agree with that joke.
It's true. All right. You know I love movies.
Uh-huh.
You know I love new TV shows.
Yep.
Now let's talk remakes.
Okay.
People have strong feelings about them. We're going to start off. We got 2 new trailers today. Both are for remakes. The first one, family friendly, 4 kids. The Cat in the Hat is back. This time it's an animated adventure. The first trailer dropped today. You can check it out online if you would like. The voice of the Cat in the Hat this time around, Bill Hader, also SNL. You also remember him from Barry. This is his first major project since Barry ended. Also, Titus Burgess, Quinta Brunson, and a who's who of voice actors. Like I said, this is the first project for him. This is also the first Cat in the Hat movie since 2003, when they made a live-action version with Mike Myers. Do you remember this one?
I don't remember that one, no.
You probably
Wow.
don't, because it was so bad. It was universally panned. It was so bad, in fact, Dr. Seuss's wife forbid any more live-action remakes, live-action adaptations of any of his stories after that movie came out, which is why every new Dr. Seuss product that has come out since has been like computer animated.
Wow.
So we'll have to see if this one restores some of that goodwill, because the last adaptation of the Cat in the Hat
That's a
is
tough
not
one.
such a good one. I grew up on the Cat in the Hat from it was probably like from the 60s. I think Alan Sherman, the singer, was the voice of the Cat in the Hat. And to be honest with you, I can still remember some of the songs from
Really?
that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good
If
one.
you remember it, let us know. # Fox 5 Live Zone. The other remake, not necessarily as family friendly, we were talking about The Running Man.
Oh yeah.
The Running Man.
Didn't Arnold
So-
Schwarzenegger, was it
Arnold Schwarzenegger was
Okay,
the
yeah.
original, 1987. It was actually based on a short story. The short story, the author's name is escaping me, but it was a pseudonym because it was actually a Stephen King story. He just wrote it under a pseudonym. This time around, Glenn Powell is the star. He's the Arnold character, the one who has to star in a dystopian future version of a TV reality show where you are being hunted by not only a group of, like, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, killers, but also everyone else who comes across you for all intents and purposes. This one is directed by Edgar Wright, who also did like Hot Fuzz with Simon Pegg. He had like a trilogy of movies at the time. He also did the movie Baby Driver. He is a very stylistic director. So that has me semi-intrigued about this movie. It's due to hit theaters in November 2025. I forgot to mention The Cat in the Hat, not until February 2026. This one out in November, though. So the idea of these, I mean, the Arnold one to me,
it was
is
good.
An absolute classic.
Yeah,
this
it
one
was good.
also co-stars Coleman Domingo. You see him right there. He's kind of like the MC. Now in the original, it was, do you remember, his name's gonna slip my mind. I think his first name was Richard. He was the host of Family Feud. He was the one who had a penchant for always kissing people right on the lips.
Yeah, I know, yep.
So he was the host in that one. Also starred
Yeah.
Jesse the
Wow, I
Body
forgot about that.
Ventura. Yeah, these movies, I grew up on Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. We were just talking right before we came online about another Arnold movie from the 80s, 90s that got remade with Colin Farrell. You said Total Recall.
Which was another awesome movie in my
Another
opinion.
awesome Arnold movie, but Glenn Powell, if anybody can kind of capture the charisma that Arnold had in those movies, it might be him. He's red hot right now in Hollywood, but remaking an Arnold movie,
it's a tough thing to do, but not only that, for us to say it's still good with the technology, CGI that they have now, and you go back and look at it, and you're like, oh, that's so cheesy. But at the same time, it was, both of those movies, amazing. So if you haven't already checked them out, Gen Zers, go do just that.
Exactly. And listen, if you need any other Arnold recommendations of 80s Muscle Man, He-Man movies, come to me. I'm your guy for that.
No doubt. What was the one where he was in the jungle? Not Predator, but the other
Predator?
one?
Okay, so the one I always go back to, the classic, was Commando.
That's the one.
Do you remember
That's
with
the one,
Alyssa
yeah,
Milano,
yeah,
who was one of my first
There it is,
crushes?
yeah.
I mean, awesome one-liners in all of these Arnold movies, including that one. Also, you know I love my reality TV trash. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives reunion out today. I haven't had a chance to watch
Chris,
it yet.
we got to go. I know you could go on and on.
All day. All day.
Producer Chris with sizzling topics right here on the Live Zone. And with that, we're gone. The Take coming up next right here on Fox 5.